What is up, everybody? Appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's another Tuesday night, so you guys already know it's time for On the Ball podcast. And tonight we're gonna keep it very simple. We're gonna talk NBA free agency because, that's kind of what's in the forefront of sports right now. A lot of money being spent by some of these teams. We'll go over a lot of the big moves. We'll kind of let you know the moves that we like, the moves that maybe have us scratching our heads. It's going to be an interesting night because, like I said, a lot of money being moved around, a lot of guys moving teams that maybe we weren't expecting, but it's all very interesting. So before we get into everything, of course, gotta let you know about the crew that's in tonight. I got it right here next to me. Got Brett, guard at 3. This is your wheelhouse right here, NBA free agency. So, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk about some great free agency moves and maybe some not so great ones. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, not every organization is run perfectly. We understand that some of them are trying. We'll give them that they're trying. But yeah, so also got Dylan here. Dylan, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Coming off the NBA draft, it was a very interesting draft overall as well. A lot of new players on a lot of new teams. And now with the start of free agency, we're seeing a lot more of that movement, it looks like. And we're seeing a lot of guys just stay put and get big contract extensions. So it's interesting to see how the league's going to look next year. Still got some big dominoes left to fall, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, there are some dominoes, like you said, that could potentially fall here, next few days or weeks or whatever. We're almost into the summer league, which that's going to be fun to watch as well, coming off of the draft. I guess we could technically use this first part to discuss the draft even a little bit because I don't think we discussed it that much last week, of course. General thoughts on it. We all know the 55th pick. We all know who that was. But looking beyond that, was there a move that surprised you, even if it's your team or whatever? What were your thoughts on the draft as a whole?
I thought it was good. I thought a lot of contenders made some moves that were really smart. I thought the Timberwolves trading up for Rob Dillingham was a really smart move for them. Gives them a young piece to put in that backcourt of already a playoff-ready team, a conference championship level type team. You get someone young in there who's going to probably fit that mold really well. I like what Minnesota did there. I'm an Atlanta fan, so obviously we drafted Zachary Richard number 1. He was the best overall pick that we could have took for how our team is. Overall, I'm very not happy with the Hawks and our whole offseason as a whole right now. I'm a big DeJounte Murray fan, so trading him just kind of sucked. But overall, it's interesting. A lot of good contenders just got better, it seemed like. They made some smart moves.
And the Murray move we'll definitely get into a little bit later on because I have some thoughts on that one as well. Whatever. Brett, thoughts on the draft?
I thought it was a good draft. I thought it was fun to watch. I think there's a lot of good talent in this draft. A lot of people are saying it's a terrible draft, but I think that there's a lot of quality depth to be had. Now, some picks were, questionable. I'm still unsure about the Bucks grabbing AJ Washington in the first round, but I also love our second round pick, so I'm kind of iffy on the draft, but we'll have to see how they develop. The one thing I didn't understand is so many people were hating on Zach Edey to the Memphis Grizzlies, and I thought that was the absolute perfect spot for him. It was a situation where he honestly probably should have been number 2 on their big board. Because we all know all of their real top guys they wanted, they probably would have loved to have Sarr, but he was going to be gone by the time they picked. So in all reality, this is a team that needed a center. So their big board probably looked like Klingon, who obviously went to Portland 7. So at that point, the best fit for their team and what they need is Edey. And the Grizzlies are going to be a playoff team again. So they need somebody who's going to impact right away, and that's exactly what Edey's going to do for them. So
yeah, I didn't think it was any bit of a reach either. Perfect point. Imagine their board was literally Sarr, Klingon, and then after that, it wasn't really a good plethora of center talents. And if you need to produce right away, why not get the 2-time player of the year, to do that? It's just because of his age. That's always why. That's my main thing I hate with the NBA draft. It's the more people look for what could be like potential rather than like this dude who's literally a 2-time national player of the year and he's been playing great basketball. Like just because he's not 19 and averaged 5 points his freshman season is why people are getting upset.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I hate the whole, oh, this guy's a junior or senior. That means he can't be that good. Where I'm like, the guy could just like being in college, wanted to
Want his
develop
degree?
in college. Right. It's like, why are we holding that against these guys? And some of these teams who just consistently draft 18 and 19-year-olds year after year after year, what do we usually say about them after they draft like the sixth guy? They need a veteran. Now, obviously, a rookie coming in at like 22, 23 doesn't have a lot of experience, but that experience that they've had on a college level can be beneficial at times, especially depending on the situation of the team. The Celtics drafted upperclassmen, makes sense because they don't really have room for necessarily a 18-year-old to play and develop and everything. So you get an older rookie. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I hate that too, that the NBA just like looks down on guys who are 22. Oh no, 22, the dreaded age. Like, give me a break. What's going on, Jury?
And it's funny because that whole age, that whole thing on age is how the Lakers arguably got the steal of the draft. Connect at 17 was absolutely phenomenal. And that's the top 10 pick. You get him at 17. That could very well be the best value pick of the draft. I'm not trying to say Connect's be the best player in the draft, but when we're looking at this draft in a couple of years and see where people were drafted relative to position and how they're producing, Connect's going to be in the running for best pick of the draft.
Yeah, he's going to definitely probably be on all rookie first team, if not second, probably by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, as a Celtics fan, I can't even be mad at that pick because I like Connect at Tennessee, and I feel like that's a good pick. Like you said, you get a guy like that at 17 who, yes, played a little longer in college, but he was very productive and he knows how to play. So you can't be mad at something like that. I mean, Anthony did bring up the Bronny situation. As Anthony says, he has Bronny winning Rookie of the Year. He's going to turn that $5 into $1,500. Hey, if you do, more power to you. Obviously, he's been the talk of the draft because we understand he's LeBron's son. I get that. He's playing in LA with his dad. Cool. A lot of people, Laker fans, LeBron fans, are looking at the social media response to it. A lot of them aren't liking it. And all I can say to those people are, you got to realize, for somebody like me or, Brett and Dylan who are watching the draft, the coverage is where I think a lot of the quote-unquote hate is coming from. Because he was a 55th pick and they treated that moment of the draft coverage once he was picked as that's all they were going to talk about while they were skipping over picks. You have the deputy commissioner, like, it seemed like he was just in an empty room announcing picks, and they stopped going to him, giving other second rounders their moment. I think that's where it's coming from. Not hating the fact that Bronny got picked. It's number 55. No team's going to lose sleep over the 55th pick. Like, Bronny's is not expected to come in and score like 30 a game and just set the world on fire. If you're picked 55th, there's development needed. So that's all I wanted to say about the Bronny part. I mean, if you guys want to add anything.
I mean, just to kind of piggyback off that, I mean, you said it perfectly. He was the 55th pick. I mean, overall, it's not like if he was picked in the first round, I think that would make everyone feel way different and kind of in the same boat where all the media is feeling. Like if you overreached for him, the Lakers traded up for a first round pick or whatever the case was, you just pick 17 to get him instead of Connect. I mean, I think we would all been, felt that way a little bit, but he was, one of the last picks in the draft. Not saying that those can't ever hit, but it's just you're taking a developmental risk on him. You're looking for someone who's going to be, take some time. So, I mean, that's all it was. I mean, he's going to have familiarity. He's going to obviously be playing in a better situation than if he were to go anywhere else and try to develop. I mean, he's going to be with his dad, the person he's, grown up with his whole life. He's seen probably that Lakers locker room as many times as ever as well too. He's probably been in those facilities many times as well too. So it's he's comfortable. It's familiarity. And I mean, they're going to have to try to develop any other set of other rookies who might not know that, Bronny just made sense there. I mean, everyone's happy. I mean, outside of the people, who just didn't want to see him go there.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it was really all about the coverage. Do we really care what happens with Bronny in the 55th pick? No.
No.
What's he going to do in his rookie year? Nothing. They said they're drawing up plays from what play? All right, Bronny, I really need you to sit in ADC to keep it warm. We need him fresh for the second half. Like, there's nothing to draw up. He's not going to play. He's not really going to make an impact in his rookie year. But it was just the fact that pick 54, they're talking about Bronny. Pick 55, obviously they talk about Bronny. Then 56, 57, 58. After the draft is over, post-draft show, it's all about Bronny. Overall, I think just the whole draft coverage in general, even outside of Bronny, though, is a mess, to be fair. It's not even just him.
Yes.
I hated Stephen A. talking about the draft because he didn't even know. We're in like pick
Yes.
6, and he's talking about who the Knicks are going to draft at 24. He doesn't know half the guys in the top 15 name. Like, listen, I'm not.
Yeah, this was like their first year with this crew, wasn't it? For the draft, it was bad.
Yeah,
Well, that was the ESPN crew. Like, if you went to ABC, that's where they had Jay Billis, Andrea Carter, Richard Jefferson. So at least Billis and Carter know the college game. If you subjected yourself to Stephen A., because I did for like the first few picks, and it's like somebody handed Stephen A. a binder right before he went on. So anytime a pick happened, he's looking down at it and just reading like bullet points. He didn't know any of those guys. So yeah, that coverage was terrible. I'm hoping ESPN does not do that again. Or if you're going to, tell Stephen A. to do some homework on at least some of these guys. We don't need you to know everybody, but some. I think the only person he might have known was Castle Klingon because they played at UConn. But the international guys, good luck. He didn't know anything.
He even admitted it too, and that's the sad thing. He was like, I don't even know who that dude is. It's like, isn't that your job? It's not what you get paid millions. Right. Like, I'm sorry. If I got paid the amount of money he did to broadcast, I'd do my homework on those guys because I just do it on my free time. I don't get paid for it anyways.
Yeah, like they'd been better off showing. I think they had like Greenberg and some of their like ESPNU guys working the ESPN radio broadcast. You'd have been better off just putting the camera in their face if that's what you're going to do, and at least they would know some of these players. So that yeah, I agree that part of it was a mess. So after a while, I switched to ABC to listen to Billis and Carter. They were way better at it.
That's what I should have done.
I honestly didn't even know that. I was like, there's no way that this is the only broadcast, and so I was just looking around and I saw ABC and I was like, yeah, I'll stick with this one.
I just started watching. Started watching the updates flowing on Twitter. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I really can.
Right.
I mean, even in the first round, they were just talking about Bronny and stuff too, and it's like, man, he's not even going in the first. I don't even think you should mention him.
Right. So, but yeah, we talked about the draft. We talked Bronny. I feel like we filled that quota. So let's get into what we are here to talk about mainly is the free agency period. Although Anthony says we don't know players in France that's not broadcast in the USA unless you go on YouTube. That's
People
a fair
knew
point.
when Benyama was with ease because he was good.
Yes.
That's kind of fair, Anthony. But if I'm Stephen A. and I'm getting paid millions and I want to get paid $25 million a year, like you gotta know, like there is ways to access like French game film. It's not like locked away in some top secret vault away from the USA.
And I imagine they would have no issue giving that to ESPN either.
Right, and like, I've gotten bored and watched French league games. Like, you can find the games. Stephen A. just didn't want to do his homework.
And even if you wanted Stephen A. on there just because of the brand of Stephen A., they knew going into this was going to be a heavy international draft. Have somebody with international experience on there with them, because it was him. It was Bob Myers from the old GM from Golden State, which I'm fine with because I guess he could give you like the backstage draft process. They had Kevin, I think Nagandi, who was hosting it. He was basically reading from a binder too. That was the problem. You just add somebody on there who either knows these French guys or just knows the international game in general. I feel like they would have been fine. But just the fact it was just those three trying to do it, yeah, that was the problem.
I mean, what? Your first two picks were like international guys? I mean, I can't remember pick 3 off the top of my head, but your
Reed
first 2
Shepherd.
guys.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
3
yeah.
was Reed
Yeah.
Shepherd.
So yeah, your first 2 picks were international stars. I feel like that should have been some heavy draft coverage there. And then pick 5 or 6, whoever the Hornets have, was also another international guy. So it was just like, I mean, your top 5 picks were 3 people from France, let alone, and it was just like it didn't seem like anybody really knew, and that's kind of sad. Because how do you think they feel, especially? Like this was supposed to be their moment, and was just like nobody just knew who they were. It felt like it's like, huh.
Their big moment is Stephen A. going, "I don't even know who you are." Like it's unfortunate. It really is.
Right, and even for Anthony's part, like for us, yes, that you can task ESPN with that leading up to the draft to introduce us to some of these guys that we knew were going to be called pretty early on. So I think in that part, ESPN dropped the ball there as well. But let's go ahead and get into the free agency aspect of our show. So let's go ahead and get started with Klay Thompson. The Splash Brothers are no more. I mean, first Poole's gone, now Klay. Like, what world are we living in? So Klay, and even this was kind of done in a weird manner, that he actually negotiated with the Mavericks first, agreed to a deal with them. Golden State comes in and goes, "Oh, wait, we haven't finalized a trade because we're trying to figure out some stuff." And for a little bit there, I was like, could this really fall through? Because if you're going to make a trade, Golden State had to take something on. And that's what like the last bit of negotiation was. So it is official now. Klay is going to go to the – well, not yet. I think they're official like July 16th or something. But it's going to happen. So Klay is going to the Mavs. He's going to join Luka and Kyrie, 3 years, $50 million. I think, was it Josh Green's going to Charlotte? Feel bad for you, buddy, but Charlotte. And Golden State's getting like 2 second-round picks out of it. So looking at this move, I mean, how do you see the fit in Dallas, and do you like it for Dallas?
I will say I like the fit offensively. I think he adds some much needed spacing and consistent shooting, and it's something that plagued the Mavericks getting deeper into the playoffs, especially against Boston when they just forced Washington and Derek Jones to take above the break threes. That's something they can't do, but something that Klay can do. However, and this is here's what I want to say. All because they have Klay Thompson, that does not mean he's the 3rd most important member of the team. I saw on ESPN, Kendrick Perkins, Dallas Mavericks have the 3rd best big 3. Luka, Kyrie, Klay.
Yeah.
Miss me with that. Derek Lively is going to be more important than Klay Thompson still this year. Mark my words. But I do like the fit offensively. Defensively, it's going to be an absolute mess. Klay can't guard guards anymore. He can guard some forwards as long as they aren't fast. So he's pretty much regulated just guarding bigger forwards. So I think on one hand, it's good. But on the other, when you're trying to figure out how it's going to work defensively, it's a little bit of a mess. But overall, I'm fine with them taking this chance, considering it didn't really cost them anything.
Anthony does bring up a good point that LeBron wanted Klay on the Lakers, and they were ballsy enough to offer the Warriors D'Angelo Russell, and the Warriors said, "No, we're good on that." But yeah, go ahead, Dylan.
I mean, I agree with what Brett said. I think offensively it's really good. I mean, you get another veteran presence in there, someone who's been to the finals multiple times, who's won multiple finals. I mean, given last time we saw him, he wasn't really clutch, but I mean, he's had clutch moments in the past and in very important games. Defensively, it's a little bit iffy. He's had his injuries in the past time. He's not as quick as he used to be, and he can't guard as well as he used to be before. If we had the Klay Thompson of old, this would be good because he would also be a great defensive piece for him as well too. But now it's not very much the same. I think it's going to be really good offensively. Like what Brett said, they did struggle with shooting deeper into the playoffs. So Klay Thompson is someone that can just be lights out from that at any given moment. But sometimes, the lights stay on and he has bad games. It's going to be very interesting to see there. Obviously, he's going to be that number 3, if you want to call it, on this team. But I mean, this is going to be a very ball dominant team between Luka and Kyrie still. Clay's going to have to take a lesser role as where like, he was always looked at as that like kind of two bid next to Steph Curry. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I do like the move overall. Very much like it just because, they definitely seem to struggle in the playoffs, not having like just another key shooter or something like that can kind of just ease a little bit of that tension and create a little bit more spacing for them. But I mean, overall, it's going to be interesting. The team definitely needed to get better, especially after that finals loss. And I think this is a move that does get them better. How much better? Who knows? Would I still take Boston over them? Yes. I mean, I'm not sure if this makes it like a 7-game series now rather than just a 5, but I mean, it's a good move. You had to get better, especially after the way you lost the finals. And I think this is a move that got them better.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. I see the need. A lot of the finals talk for Dallas was Luka and Kyrie, nobody else kind of stepping up. Those instances where they could get into the lane, had to kick it out. Derek Jones Jr. struggled from 3. PJ Washington struggled from 3. So Clay, you figure, catch and shoot, he can still be effective that way. At least for Dallas fans, they're hoping. I am so interested in defensively how they make this work. I know, when they struggled defensively in the finals, they kind of sat Lively or Gafford in front of the rim to stop, dribble penetration from the perimeter. But I also think like teams are going to be smart to that and will be able to counter that. So between Luka, Clay, and Kyrie, they're going to have to be able to slow down at least a few guys on the perimeter. Otherwise, it may just turn into, I don't know, man. It's going to be rough to watch defensively. But like I said, I get the need. I understand it. It's going to be weird not seeing him in Golden State, but I think we were all kind of prepared for this based off those 2 years that he missed, coming back from one injury, injuring something else. The time was just time for Clay to move on. So good luck to him in Dallas, and Golden State's kind of moving on.
They didn't spend a crazy amount on him either, though. That's the thing with me. They didn't spend like a crazy amount in comparison of like what we've seen other free agents get. He's getting about 15 mil, obviously, give or take a little bit more. But that's not bad. I mean, that's not bad at all. I think that's very good, especially if you can get a good Klay Thompson who can shoot like we've seen before, maybe pick up a little bit defensively better. That could be a really great move for him, especially since it only cost him, Josh Green in a couple seconds. So,
yeah. And I mean, it does look, because, Golden State did offer him 2 and 48, I believe, during the season. He signs for 3 and 50. So, I mean, he gets like a couple million extra over the course of the contract, but it's going to be less per year. So, I mean, I can't say like Golden State didn't try everything to keep him. Maybe Clay bet on himself and lost a little bit, but he does get the extra year. So that is a bit of security for him. But looking at Dallas's new big 3, according to Perk, would you pick them today as the favorites to come out of the West again?
I would say yes, just because nobody else has really made any bigger enough moves to convince me. I mean, there's not been any like crazy other free agent signings from the West that like make like clearly puts them above the Mavericks. And so since the Mavericks are the most recent winners, they also got better, in my opinion. I mean, they basically swapped, Derek Jones Jr. for Klay Thompson. And I think you win that situation there. So I think it keeps them at number 1 just for now, just because nobody else has really done anything too crazy to kind of like pole vault over them.
I'm going to go with no.
Okay.
I would not pick them to come out of the West. I think there's some other teams, and I'll start with the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a team that really used a lot of Derek Jones Jr. on SGA to kind of try to slow him down, but I think with the Thunder, they made 2 nice improvements with Caruso and Hartenstein to their squad, and not to mention just internal growth in general from Chet, Jalen Williams, and all these young guys they have on their roster. I think that'll be enough to put them over the Mavericks. I still think the Nuggets will be back, and I would pick them over the Mavericks in a series. And Those are really the two off the top of my head. Kind of iffy on the Timberwolves. Maybe I'd pick them now over a series, but that's more of a toss-up. But for sure, I'd pick the Thunder and I'd pick the Nuggets over the Mavs.
I definitely like what you said about the Thunder. I forgot about the Hartenstein move. I mean, they just got better defensively, which is something they needed, which is a very, very great. I mean, I think Hartenstein's going to be a center that's going to be like all NBA considerations, you know. But I'm not sure about the Nuggets yet, just because losing KCP kind of sucks, and you haven't really done anything to replace that yet. But the Nuggets also still have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, who just got an extension. So, you know, everyone's happy when you get an extension. So I just when they make a move to make some replacements, then I imagine I'll have them up there. But for now, I mean, I think when you swap Derek Jones for Klay Thompson, you get better.
Yeah, I just like the idea of the Thunder's closing lineup better than the Mavericks' closing lineup because I love two-way closing lineups. And when I can trot out a closing lineup with SGA, Lou Dort, Caruso, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, or if I need to go big, Hartenstein, who's also a good defender, I have so many different variety of defenses I can throw at you, and they would all make sense. So,
yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the Thunder aspect of it. I do think, you know, the Thunder will use this past season as a, you know, stepping stone towards next year. So I figure that they will come back better equipped to make a deeper run. I know a lot of people will probably throw Minnesota into the mix, only because, you know, Anthony Edwards and those guys went pretty far this year. But yeah, I would look at the Thunder. I think the only thing might be with the Thunder offensively, will they be able to, you know, execute late game? Let's just, you know, in case like somebody doubles SGA and he has to get the ball out of his hands, you know, will guys like Dort and those other guys be able to make shots? I feel like they'll figure it out, but yeah, I wouldn't pick the Mavs as necessarily the favorite right now. Let's go to our next one. Paul George. So, I mean, obviously, you know, most of you guys listening in or watching probably have heard these moves, but if not, Paul George is leaving the Clippers. He's joining the Sixers, 4 years, $212 million. So looking at this one, this is now another big three for Joel Embiid. They've tried Ben Simmons, you know, the man, the myth, the legend. They tried James Harden. So now you're looking at Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. How do you like that big three now? And does that elevate the Sixers to, I guess, level with the Celtics? Do you think that they now are the second best and the biggest threat to the Celtics? Like, how do you see Paul George fitting in with Philly now?
I do think this move does make him the clear-cut second best. Not first because, you know, when you're the team who wins the championship and you basically bring back every single person to extensions or you just have them all on contract, it's hard to top that. I mean, but overall, I do think it makes them a better team. If you look at like the 76ers of recent, you know, when Joel Embiid gets hurt, Tyrese Maxey's really good, but Tyrese Maxey can't do it all by himself. And granted, he tries his heart out. He plays super well, but he just can't do it all by himself. And when you have a player like Joel Embiid who does have that injury history, I mean, yeah, of course you don't want to see him get injured or predict that, but it does happen. Paul George is a good, you know, 3-and-D type of wing that you can bring in there that can also help alleviate some of that pressure and tension, you know, if Joel has to sit out or if maybe even Maxey gets hurt. It kind of gives you that second option. Or I don't want to call Tyrese Maxey the third. Tyrese Maxey is good. I would look at Paul George and him as, you know, a 2A, 2B type situation in this. But I think it's good. I mean, you're going to get a lot more veteran leadership out of it. You're going to get another option that can score, but also play some decent defense when you need it. I mean, all you did was just get better with this thing. I think the 76ers had a really good offseason so far. I think getting Paul George, Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, you know, getting Kelly Oubre back, I think all those have been great moves. Yeah, I mean, you just get better overall, and where I don't think they've gotten any worse. I mean, it doesn't make them number one in my eyes, but it definitely makes them the clear-cut second, kind of puts them a step above some of these other teams.
Anthony said PG is over Maxey. Okay.
I just like Maxey's potential. Yeah. Maxey's been playing good. I don't want to discredit what Maxey's been doing on this 76ers team already just by adding Paul George. And
that is something that I do wonder about it. You know, will the focus go to Paul George being Embiid's new running mate at the detriment of Maxi's development, because we've seen him turn into a pretty prolific scorer. He has great energy. He's always going like 100 miles an hour. So I do think that, Paul George will fit in with them. I mean, look, as a Celtics fan, I would say the Sixers are the second best in the East right now. I mean, there's another team in the East we'll talk about later that, the NBA media loves to fawn over, but I do like what the Sixers did here. For Paul George, the only thing's going to be, what's it, like 35 now? And he has dealt with some injuries throughout his career. How will he be able to hold up over the course of the 4 years of this contract? But obviously, their biggest thing's going to be Embiid's health, like you said, Brett. So if Embiid isn't healthy, the Paul George signing probably doesn't change much for them. Trajan says 76ers second best. Come on now. I mean, Trajan, I know you have your squad. I'm assuming that's who you're saying should be number 2. I don't know. We'll obviously discuss that over the course of the offseason and the season. I'm just saying right now, it's hard not to put the Sixers second best. And that's even with me questioning Embiid a lot of the times. I just say right now I'd have to pick them. It's not to discredit Milwaukee. I understand.
I think it's interesting when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, because it really does all come down to, are they actually going to be healthy come playoff time, right?
Yeah.
I do think that the top 3 teams in the East are still Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee. And I think Philly and Milwaukee are more interchangeable than people think. Just because a lot of people don't understand. There's when it comes to the playoffs and everything, matchups are a big deal. I still think that Milwaukee can present quite a few mismatches for the 76ers. Just like Boston can also present some mismatch. It is a Clay Matthews jersey. Say Milwaukee and Boston can both present matchup issues. But now the Clippers, the 76ers have a great answer to that. I absolutely love what they did here. At the end of the day, you want to maximize Joel Embiid's prime while he's still playing at an MVP level. And now they did that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything if they can't stay healthy.
Right. That's going to be the big thing. Paul George and Embiid being able to stay there for the long run. And yes, I will agree. Look, you give me, or not me because I'm not a Bucks fan, but if you're going to tell me Giannis is healthy, I'm one of those who will never doubt what that guy is able to do come playoff time. So for me, if Giannis is there, I'm always going to have the Bucks as legit contenders in the East.
I love or hate Damian Lillard, but he can turn it on, and when he does, I mean, he's like one of the most unstoppable point guards in the league. When he does, we've seen him go through crazy stretches.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost like where I'm looking at when I think mismatch, because now I'm like, okay, well, no, that's great, but now if Giannis is healthy, the 76ers effectively have to match either Paul George, who Giannis normally has a great time playing against, or Kelly Oubre against him, and that's even worse. So overall, I still think maybe they have a need for like a bigger, stronger forward to try to bang with somebody like Giannis. I think that could maybe be something they address later, but don't get it twisted. I actually do like the move.
All right, so Trajan says Dame needed a year. Middleton needed to figure out his role. With a year together, if healthy, this team is a dangerous late game. I can trust Dame or Middleton to hit a big shot. Okay.
Agreed.
I'm not going to argue that. Let's go to our next move. Dylan, this one hurts for you. Also, look, as somebody who Atlanta's become their second city, I really like DeJounte Murray in Atlanta. So this is a move I've been waiting to talk about. So DeJounte Murray, in an offseason that we kind of understood the Hawks were going to have to make a decision on the Trae Young-Murray dynamic, which just was not working. They decided to move Murray to the Pelicans. In return, they're getting, Larry Nance, Dyson Daniels. That's not the most important part of it. It's just the fact that appears they're deciding to continue down with Trae Young at the expense of DeJounte Murray. Even though Murray was $15 million a year cheaper, I do think he probably had more trade value. So I'm not going to, knock them for that. I just don't like it. But what do you think about this move for the Pelicans? Do you like the addition on their end? And then what exactly are the Hawks doing? Just plain and simple. What is the direction of this team?
I'll start real fast on the Pelicans end before I kind of go on a tangent about the Hawks. But for the Pelicans, it's a really smart move. I mean, you get a really good defensive point guard. Get someone who can take over in games, and now you have a great starting lineup outside of, I don't know who's going to be playing. There are 5 there now because Valanciunas is gone, or whoever you have playing at your big man position. Regardless, I mean, you have a lineup of McCollum, Zion Williamson, DeJounte Murray. I mean, just as 3 of those guys, Herb Jones as well. I mean, you're going to be able to match up good defensively against some guards and wings. You have Zion there, who's going to be playing your 4 or 5 regardless, who's also going to be a great matchup just because of his size. DeJounte Murray has great playmaking. He's going to be able to find Williamson in great situations. I think from a Pelicans perspective, all you did was just get better. Dyson Daniels wasn't working. Larry Nance is just a veteran leadership, and you gave up 2 later first-round picks to get better now. I mean, this Pelicans team is, I'm not saying that they think there's like any like parity in the West or anything like that, but they see this as an opportunity to kind of move up. You see all these other teams that just gotten better by making just specific type of moves. This is the Pelicans move. I mean, you're getting a good starting point guard who is going to be that point guard there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's going to be that ball dominant player as much as there as well too, which you don't have to worry about with that parity between Trae Young or anything like that. So, I mean, as a Pelicans fan, you would have to be happy. I mean, you didn't get anything but better here, and you didn't really trade too much to get him as well.
Yeah.
And then on the Hawks end, I don't know. I mean, it's upsetting, especially because, before this offseason, it was like, oh, it's who are you going to have? Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. And it's like, then you got the number 1 overall pick. And it's like, that should have been trade bait from right then and there, regardless. I mean, I feel like you could have made it work if you could have found someone to piece together or just something. It's a weird situation to keep Trae Young also on the team, keep all of these kind of older guys like Clint Capella, different things like that, have the number 1 overall pick and just expect that to work. It just seems weird. It doesn't seem like the Hawks are going to go anywhere this year at all, do anything at all. And it just seems like I don't know. It's weird. You could have got more for Trae Young, could have got more value for Trae Young, kept DeJounte Murray on the team on a cheaper contract. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know where you're going as a Hawks organization, because it's like you got worse. You got the first overall pick is nice, but you still have a superstar like Trae Young that you're just kind of wasting his potential on, wasting his, his prime years on for what? I don't know. This team's not going to win. This team's not even going to be a playoff team this year, which sucks saying that as a Hawks fan, unless they make any big crazy moves. But I just don't see it. I mean, there's nothing that this team can do that no other team can probably do better than them right now. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know where they're going with this. I mean, they also traded AJ Griffin for, a 2nd-round pick from the Rockets. And it's just like you had all these different key young pieces, and it's just, I get blowing it up. Why not just blow it all up then? It feels like you're just going to be wasting Trae Young's potential there, going to be wasting his talent there because you're not going to win. You're not going to win. And it's just as simple as that. It's cool having the first overall pick, but I don't get why all the rumors were they were just going to keep it. Why not try to trade it? I mean, I imagine, Mikal Bridges probably was pretty set on going to the Knicks, and the Nets wanted to honor that, especially given the time that he did have there. But why didn't you throw out that first overall pick for, a jab at him, or at least any other big star for a matter of that, to try to see if you could make it work? But now you're going to keep Trae Young there in a situation where he's not going to win for what? Just sell a couple tickets, sell extra jerseys. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And trade Clint Capella. Why is he still on the team?
I don't know.
Why don't the Lakers trade for him? There you go, guys. There you go. There's someone you can take. That'd be a good piece for you.
Do I like them acquiring DeJounte Murray? I do, because they didn't give up a lot to acquire him.
Mm-hmm.
Does it move the needle for the Pelicans? I don't think it really does. And that's nothing against the talent of DeJounte Murray. It's just you're putting one Like, let's say DeJounte Murray refines his San Antonio Spurs form. He becomes a really good defender again. You're still surrounding him with 3 negative defenders. CJ McCollum isn't a good defender. Brandon Ingram maybe plays defense once every 5 games. And Zion, no. And not to mention, now you don't even have a center to kind of protect the rim behind him. So I feel like, is it a good talent grab? Sure. But I think this is just kind of neutral because now I feel like this team is just going to be hemorrhaging points. And if your strategy is let's just try to outscore the other team, it's just not going to work. So good job on getting DeJounte, but unless you really start filling out the roster with some actual defenders not named somebody outside of Herb Jones, then I don't think it really matters that much.
I do think the Pelicans might trade Brandon Ingram. That's why I just didn't mention him.
That'd be the best move at this point. I'd trade him, get a real center, put Herb Jones in the lineup. Then maybe you're starting to cook with something. The Hawks, they're trying to sell jerseys. They're not trying to win. They're not trying to build a real team that can compete deep into the playoffs for multiple years. We can tell that much. Unless they're really that high on Rasheer and Trae Young combo, which, once again, I think at best that's a first-round exit. Probably more so get knocked out in the play-in because I will acknowledge Trae Young's a talent, but he's not good enough to really carry you past that first-round exit. And before any – he did it in 2021. I think we can safely say that was a fluke.
Yes.
It was a one-year thing. It's not going to happen again.
Yeah, that one trip to the Eastern Conference Finals was the worst thing that ever happened to the Hawks because they way overvalued Trae Young's ability to be the best player on a championship team. You know, it's tough for an undersized guard to be your best player and for you to do well in today's NBA. Because I say it all the time when I talk to Hawks fans, name another instance led by an undersized guard that a team has won it all. You pointing to like Isaiah Thomas, early 90s, and Steph Curry with the Warriors. And even those Warriors teams were a lot better than that Hawks team that made the Eastern Conference Finals. So not really comparable. For the Pelicans, I do like it because, I mean, last year they were running like CJ McCollum at the point. That was never going to get it done. At least Murray can play that position a lot better. I do agree that, you know, the pieces around him, they probably, like the Pelicans should probably make another move, and whether that is Brandon Ingram. I know the rumors are that the Kings want him. I would be interested to see what the Kings would give up for Brandon Ingram. So I feel like for the Pelicans, it's definitely like trending up for them, but another move probably is needed. And the Hawks, look, the only reason to watch the Hawks really is like Jalen Johnson's development, the new guy like Risa Shea or however you pronounce it. Those two, I feel like will be fun to watch. I mean, I'm hoping there's maybe a Trae Young move in this at some point.
Just please not to the Lakers. I love Trae Young.
Well, I mean,
just not to the Lakers.
Most teams have kind of used up salary cap space, so it's going to be interesting to find some place for $43 million worth of Trae Young. But if that's where Atlanta's plan was to move Murray first, move Trae Young after, I would say fine, because at least you're doing a proper teardown and starting over with, like I said, Jalen Johnson, Risa Shea. Clint Capella is another one. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why he still has a Hawks uniform. He probably needed to go at the trade deadline last year, but that's neither here nor there. So if those two guys get moved, I will say Atlanta's had a good offseason. But if Trae Young's sitting there with this group, I just don't get it. Yes, he's in commercials. He can be an all-star, but you got to strive for better than that. So, I do.
The issue with that is I don't even think it makes sense for Atlanta to start their teardown this year because they don't have their first from the DeJounte Murray trade.
Mm-mm.
So
that is a good point. Yes.
Even if they want to blow it up, unless they're trading Trae Young to the Spurs to get their first rounder back.
Yep.
It doesn't really benefit them at all to start a teardown this year. So, ironically, the best course of action would be to keep Trae Young on the roster because you want to win games at that point. You might as well shoot for the moon and try to win some games if you don't have control of your first. So,
I mean, the only parts I could think of it is you gave Quinn Snyder a good defensive with your first overall pick. I mean, he's good, just overall type of guy. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe you can just settle down a better game plan, having just the one guard there. You have, like you said, you'll have your progression from Okongwu, Jalen Johnson. You still have Bogdan Bogdanovic there, who's great. It's just interesting. It's like it just seems like this team's going to win 32 games, not make the play-in, and it's just like, for what? Like, congrats, you sold all your jerseys and Trae Young, and that was about it.
Yeah, and Trae Young being in that situation, the ball dominant guard, he'll probably put up great numbers next year. Because the biggest issue with him and Murray was when Murray had the ball in his hands, was trying to create. Trae Young was disinterested off the ball. Then when Trae Young had the ball, Murray was kind of lost off the ball in those situations. So you can go back to Trae Young being your focal point. Sure, he'll put up, 28 a game or whatever. He may even have like 10 assists a game. But like you said, to win 32 games, what's really the point at that point? Now you're just in purgatory. That's the worst place to be as an NBA franchise.
Yeah, they're just kind of hoping and seeing, maybe the progression from these guys are good enough, but it's just like that's a lot to, hope for. I mean, as for Trae Young, I mean, yeah, it's probably creating a better offense for him, but it's just my biggest worry being a Hawks fan is if he gets injured, this team's screwed. Like, they're not winning a game if Trae Young gets injured, unless someone just whoever they're playing that night just stinks. Like, all of them just has a bad game. They're not winning a game if Trae Young's not playing. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I mean, they might be good defensively. I think this Hawks team is probably going to be a little bit better defensively overall. You'll have proper spacing and things like that. But outside of that, it's just offensively not going to be the greatest, especially if Trae Young's hurt or can't play at some point.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to the next move. All right, orange and blue skies. I know Anthony brought up the no love for the Knicks. Well, here we go. We made it to the Knicks portion of free agency in a move that, I mean, when I saw everything that transpired, was kind of shocking. Bridges is crossing over from Brooklyn to New York. Well, I mean, Brooklyn plays in Jersey or whatever. Well, he's crossing over to actually play in New York for the Knicks, and the Knicks gave up a bunch of picks to get him. So they're almost completed their Villanova starting five. This is the fourth guy added. I don't know a Villanova center that's still in the league, but if there is one, stay by your phone because the Knicks are probably calling you in the next couple of days. So you're looking at Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Bridges. And then I guess Randall coming back from his injury, Mitchell Robinson, who, how many games are going to get out of him, and then whatever is left on their bench. What do you think about the move for the Knicks? I mean, does it move the needle for you in the sense that now the Knicks? Well, I mean, we kind of talked about when we were talking about the Sixers, about the top three, looking at the Sixers and the Bucks, along with the Celtics being there. So does this just keep the Knicks at 4? I mean, is this like a lateral move for them? Like, what do you make of all this for the Knicks?
I think it does help them. How much does it move the needle? I'm not sure, because when you see the 76ers, moving for Paul George, that kind of counter-reacts some things a little bit like that. But it's really good. I mean, from a locker room presence, I imagine Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson are so happy. And then Bridges is also going to be playing in a better situation for him. He's going to be playing with people he knows, people he's played in college with. So, I mean, on a locker room standpoint, it's going to do strides for them. On a talent standpoint as well, Bridges is obviously really good. He's been really healthy. If there's one person to test that, though, it's Thibodeau. about how long you can actually keep him out there on the court. But overall, I mean, it's a good move. I mean, Bridges is a really good, just overall type of guy. It seems like the Knicks are built on a lot of fundamental type of guys, and Bridges is also one of those type of dudes who's really good at that. Someone who can play. He played 84 games last year, which is a crazy stat even in it of itself. But I mean, how much does it move the needle? It's really hard to say. Bridges is a really good talent, but is he a superstar level talent that can take you over that hump? It's really hard to say. And even still, we don't know how all these guys are going to play together, what the lineups are going to be. And now you're kind of still lacking in that center position at that 4 or 5 spot. You lose Hartenstein to get Bridges onto this team, which is a little iffy because, Hartenstein was doing strides with New York, kind of being that big centerpiece for him. And now you kind of have to, rely on Mitchell Robinson, who we said, and Julius Randle coming off an injury. So it's going to be a little bit tougher when you have to go up a team against like Milwaukee, who can just oversize you. The 76ers, who's going to have someone like Joel Embiid, who can just get, his 40, 50 a night, and you don't want that every day. So it's going to be interesting. I think just overall locker room, fundamental wise, it's going to be a lot better. They're probably going to score crazy amounts, have tons of great highlights, but when it comes down to the actual finals, who knows? Because some of these matchups are going to be a lot tougher on them. But I do really like the move just because everyone's happy.
Do I think this move is going to look good on the court? Yes. Do I think they overpaid for Mikal Bridges? Also, yes. They paid a superstar price for a guy who peaks as like a strong all-star. Like, to me, it's a little too much, but on-court fit, it's going to be awesome. I have no doubt the chemistry is going to be there. Obviously, these guys are all in I think it was the 2016 Nova team.
Mm-hmm.
So they already have experience playing together. I think it makes them better, but I also think it won't move the needle again. And I'm going to say the same thing I did with the Pelicans. They got to upgrade the center position. They need a good backup center that they can rely on. Mitchell Robinson's not going to be there all year. They chalk him up for about 30 missed games. So then what? You're going to run small ball Julius Randle at center? That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Play any team with actual size, and they're just going to have free real estate at the rim. Not the shot you want to give up in a game of basketball. So I like it. I just think that they should rest on their laurels, and there's more work that needs to be done. But overall, I think it's going to be a fun watch. This chemistry is going to be off the charts.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Dylan.
I was just going to make a quick sidebar. I was going to say, and I believe Bridges was like, hey, man, talking to the Nets, they probably came up to him, letting him know they're offering trades, looking to trade him. And I bet he tried everything in his power to be like, hey, the Knicks are the team I want to go to. However you can make it work, make it work. I was just going to say that's cool for the Knicks to do something like that if that's how that went.
Yeah.
The Nets.
Yeah. So for the Knicks, look, you can't doubt that he, along with the other 3 Villanova guys, won't be able to play well together. Yes, the concerns at the center position are legit. I'll just say for Brooklyn, kudos to you for getting all that draft capital for Mikal Bridges. I mean, that a lot of people looked at the Rudy Gobert thing and was like, oh my God, what was that? I mean, Mikal Bridges. So if you were a Nets fan and, the way that they got hosed by the Celtics back in the day, this kind of makes up for it. Well, minus the Jaylen Brown Tatum picks for the Celtics and actually watching them win the title. But they got a lot out of this. I'm interested to see what Brooklyn does with all these picks because you're looking at a team, Cam Thomas and, a lot of these guys who probably need some stability in terms of, rotation and everything like that. I have no idea what the Nets are going to look like next year. They're going to have some nights where they may be fun to just kind of watch for a little bit and just see, Cam Thomas probably drop a 45 game or something every once in a while. Now that Bridges isn't going to take some of those shots from him. And then there's going to be some nights it's going to be real ugly in Brooklyn. So they're going to be highly unpredictable. But yeah, for the Knicks, this should solidify them as, top 4 or 5 seed in the East. And once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen because of, players struggling or, not wishing it on anybody. An injury here or there can change the landscape a lot. So
The Pacers
all right, so
making the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, you saw the Knicks get injured last year with that
Yeah.
roster, and the Pacers just took advantage and moved on.
yeah. So for the Knicks, it's definitely a move to celebrate, but got to see what they do with the center position before you can really try to put them into the top 3 in the East. All right, so we talked Knicks. I gotta bring my Celtics into this. So Tatum, he got his max deal, 5 years, $315. Also to tie into that, they literally have re-signed everybody. I think just as we were going on, they re-signed Xavier Tillman. They re-signed Luke Cornett, which means back-to-backs happen. You got Luke Cornett, so it's a written. Derek White re-signed. Yeah, and he got a deal that when you're looking at it compared to like OG Anunoby and some of these guys, Derek White looks like a very good bargain. I mean, I know like terms of service and everything was the factor in that, but Derek White signed for a very good contract. Horford's coming back, so the Celtics are running it back with Tatum, now the richest contract in league history. We went through this last year with Jaylen Brown. So I'm sure there's going to be some outrage over Tatum getting it, whatever. They can deal with that. So what do you think about the Celtics just running it back? Do you think
Smart.
they maybe should have made an upgrade here or there, or are you fine with it?
No, just my quick thing on it is they ran through the playoffs with relative ease. I mean, all these teams are getting better, but you can get better, with more chemistry and, just more coaching. I mean, Missoula knows these guys through and through as a first year, head coach. I mean, overall, I think you just get better and better. There's nothing better than, just stability and proper teammate chemistry. That's all that the Celtics did. I mean, you won the championship with all these guys last year. Who's going to stop you from doing it again with better progression? All these teams are making moves to stop the Celtics and stop what the Celtics have. So,
yeah.
All that money just get carried by Jaylen Brown and Al Horford again next year.
Hey.
Overall, it's a great idea to run it back. You went through the regular season and the postseason, and nobody was able to touch you. And it was such a level of dominance that you can kind of guess, okay, you can improve, but with the way we kind of just ran through everybody else is still going to be behind. So the East is making improvements, but they're trying to catch up to Boston. So I think it's a great idea to run it back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I saw the moves. I didn't have an issue. I'm fine with the draft picks and everything. I like what Boston's doing. I mean, I do know the rumors about the team being up for sale. So, I'm good for $20 if, Paul Pierce and KG want to bring me into their ownership group, or Tom Brady. We're just going to bring everybody in. Like I said, I'll throw in 20 and I'll have, a little piece of the action. But, it makes sense. I mean, not a lot of these guys were, old or anything like that. So why not bring them back? I mean, you have Horford, who, he's just aging like wine at this point. He's probably going to come back next year shooting from the logo. Who knows? I'm not going to doubt Al Horford. He's the man right now. And, Drew Holiday is a little bit older, but, why not just keep it all together? All right. Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on the Celtics there. Go to the next one. So Chris Paul gets waived by the Warriors. He decides to join the Spurs on a 1-year deal, which, going back to the Atlanta thing, I had it played out in my mind that they made the Murray deal and then they were going to call San Antonio and say, hey, you want Trae Young to play point with Wemby? Give us some of those picks back. And I'd have been like, okay, Atlanta, now we're doing something. Well, Chris Paul jumps ahead of the line, and now Wemby gets – look, Chris Paul's a veteran. He knows how to play the point position. You don't have to see Sochan run point anymore. Chris Paul will get them in and out of sets. He'll be a great leader for a very young team. Popovich can obviously trust them out on the floor. So is there any reason to not like the union of Chris Paul with the Spurs? Or is this just not the perfect thing for the Spurs this offseason?
The only person that I just kind of question it for is Chris Paul. I mean, being a veteran guy like that, you were kind of ring chasing. I mean, at least joining the Warriors, you were a little bit ring chasing and stuff like that. And it's just like, I hope you know you're not. That's like this isn't like your aspirations for playoffs are probably very low with
Mhm.
the Spurs team still. I mean, Wemby's going to be really good. I think this team could probably shock a little bit more, having like, a little more proper flow and dynamic with Chris Paul being that veteran guy who can kind of set up these pieces, be like, hey, here, do this, do that. I feel like the game plan and stuff's going to be going really good where we're going to watch some of these Spurs games and they're going to be playing really good basketball, just playing a game like the Clippers or playing a game against the Mavericks or just whoever and just playing just really good basketball. But just overall, just for Chris Paul, it's just like, I think he's just taking this knowing like, hey, I'm just going to be a veteran guy here. Let me just teach the next generation. But man, I think their peak is a play-in tournament, which there's nothing wrong with that, especially with how good Wemby is. But it's just like they're not getting anything farther than that.
So I think this is great. I think Chris Paul probably, to an extent, enjoys like teaching the next generation, and he's good at it. We saw that with OKC, how expedited their development got when Chris Paul joined. Like clearly, he had a huge influence. We saw how he once again kind of helped expedite the growth too of the Phoenix Suns young players. Bridges got better with them. Ayton played the best ball of his career when Paul arrived. And I have no doubt that he'll do that with Spurs and Wemby. I think this is great for just everybody in general. I think all the young guys, I think the biggest benefactor is obviously going to be Wemby, but two, you have Castle coming into the league. He can learn under Chris Paul. I think overall this will be absolutely phenomenal. And hey, maybe you do this for 40 games, and if Chris Paul says, all right, I'm done with this, I want to go to a contender, $11 million? Pretty much every contender can trade for that if they wanted to. So who says that this might just be the first step in a journey eventually to get back onto a playoff team? But overall, I love it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, that it's only a 1-year deal. So, around the trade deadline, maybe he's taught Castle a lot. You could put more on Castle's plate. Now you can, dangle him at trade deadline rumors. And like you said, if there's a destination that Chris Paul wants to go to give it one last shot at a ring, yeah, you can make it happen.
Trade him actually to the Lakers this time.
Yeah.
I thought you said we were sending him somewhere with a shot at a ring.
Fair.
Oh, LeBron's going to unfollow you now.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm going to get my own 10-minute ESPN segment? Sweet.
I mean, look, the options are there for San Antonio, and we know that their front office will look at every avenue possible. So, yeah, I think we're all in agreement. It's a good move, not only for the Spurs, but for Wemby. He's going to have a guy who will be able to feed him on a lob or just get him the ball in his spots. And that's number one priority for the Spurs.
It's also a veteran who can just break down the game for him just a little bit smoother and a little bit differently. Like, granted, he's had, it seems like that whole Spurs organization from the legends to everything have just been like there from Wemby, from like Manu, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, just all those kind of people have been like trying to do that for him. But you have a veteran who's actively playing now in this game, in this league, in today's league, who can just break it down a little bit different for him and just like kind of give him that veteran mindset and veteran presence, tell him where to be, what to do, what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So James Harden, he decided to re-sign back with the Clippers. I had to get the new Clippers logo on there. So I feel like the more and more I see it, man,
I like it. I like it.
I mean, I'm fine with it. It makes sense.
Nobody knew what the Clippers actually were. Like,
exactly.
Nobody knew they were like a ship or anything like that. Like, until you did that, and it's just like, oh, people actually kind of know. Also, I like the concept the sea is kind of like a compass as well too. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's innovative. It's creative. So I'll definitely give them that. But yeah, so James Harden re-signs 2 years, $70 million. So they're not bringing back the full big three, but you're getting Kawhi and Harden again next year. They have made some other moves outside of that, like Batum and some others, which we will have. Well, we will have a segment at the end where we'll talk about some of the best of the rest. So Like, what do you make of this? 'Cause I know Anthony asked a little earlier. Are the Clippers still a top 5 team in the West? So we'll open up the Clippers discussion right there. Knowing that Kawhi's there, Harden's there, are they a top 5 team in the West next season?
I don't want to say yes just because the Clippers haven't proved. Like anytime we put faith in the Clippers, they just always prove us wrong. Or when they start doing good, we put a little faith in them and they just prove us wrong. I mean, James Harden comes back on a friendlier type of deal. If you look at some of these guys and what they're getting now, like some of these players that might not be better than James Harden are making more money than James Harden. So it's a little team friendlier deal if they want to try to make another move, maybe get DeMar DeRozan. That might be interesting. Maybe trade for Zach LaVine as well too, even though that would also be kind of interesting. Just regardless, it's a team friendlier deal. I don't think Harden going anywhere else would have been good. It would have made sense. You know, he kind of has a little comfort here now, been playing there for a little bit. Like I said, took cheaper money to do it as well too, to try maybe kind of hope to try to get another piece like a DeMar DeRozan or someone in there to, you know, maybe create another big three of some sorts. But overall, I mean, until they do something else, I don't want to put any faith in this Clippers team. I'd rather take, you know, the Mavericks. I'd rather take the Nuggets. I'd rather take the Timberwolves. I'd rather take the Thunder. I mean, that's already 4 teams right there, and a 5th can slip in just with relative ease, you know. Oh, no.
All right, Brett.
Are they a top 5 team in the West? No.
Uh-uh.
Let's go down the list. Thunder, they're better. Nuggets, they're better. Timberwolves, they're better. Mavericks, they're better. Suns, I will take the Clippers over the Suns. I will take the Clippers. I'll maybe even take the Clippers over the Lakers, but that's a coin toss. So let's say the Lakers are better. That's already 5. And I haven't even gotten into the Kings. I haven't even gotten into the Memphis Grizzlies, who'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
I just gave you a list of 7 teams, and maybe even 8 if the Suns. If Zion's healthy, the Pelicans might jump them.
The Warriors are still have Steph Curry, who's Steph Curry at the end of the day.
I think you can easily name 6 or 7 teams that are legitimately going to be better than the Clippers. And I also think you can name another 2 that are questionably right up there with them. So are they top 5 in the West? No.
So, I mean, you're basically laying out a plan that they could even miss a play-in or be a 10th seed, like final team struggling to make the play-in.
I think it's very possible that's what they'd be. I mean, especially given the injury concerns that this team's have. Kawhi's out for 20 games. Yeah, it's simply they're going to be a 9th, 10th seed. You know, James Harden's, you know, shooting 1 for 17. Yeah, you know,
I think this is a play-in team because you can look at it one of 2 ways. Kawhi misses like 20 games, like you said, play-in team. Or Kawhi tries to play the whole season like he did last year. If we watch Kawhi last year and James Harden at the end of last year, they were running out of gas. It started to look really bad because they were fatigued at the end of the year. They didn't get that rest that they normally get throughout the regular season. So I think either one of 2 things happens. Either A, injuries knock this team to the play-in, or B, they try to play, all 82 games, except this is an older team. They're going to start running out of gas, and at the end of the year, they're just going to falter, and they're going to fall to the play-in. Either way, calling it right now, Clippers this year, play-in team.
Yeah. And also, I guess not to sell them short, they did bring back Russell Westbrook as well. So they did make a couple of moves outside of the Harden deal. Yeah, I'm there with you. This does nothing for me. I'm not a Harden guy, haven't been one, and I'm even less of a Harden guy as he gets older, because even in those instances where, let's say, Kawhi has to miss a few nights, Harden doesn't want to be the guy anymore and have to put all of that on him. So
this ain't Houston.
A lot of those nights he's probably just gonna mail it in and give it like 50%. So I feel like this Clipper situation could get real ugly. And for Ballmer, you see why he did it, because they're moving into the new arena. You have Kawhi, you have Harden. Those are names to sell tickets. But I feel like they're definitely going to take a tumble this year.
And to be clear, I know everybody's looking back and in hindsight, why did the Clippers do the Paul George trade? I just want to say that if your GM was in that same situation in 2019, you would have done that trade too. Your GM would have done that trade 10 times out of 10. We're talking about Paul George coming off top 3 in MVP and DPOY voting, and Kawhi coming off that legendary Raptors playoff run. So
yeah, that was it's like literally during the trade, it seemed like perfect. It seemed like match made in heaven, especially when Kawhi was like, if you want me here, you got to pair me up with at least one of these guys. And it was just like, okay, Paul George, we can get a deal for him to work too. Let me just sign Kawhi Leonard and trade for Paul George. Like, yeah, of course. 2019, I would have been ecstatic if my team did that.
Right. I mean, because the only reason why people like are mocking it now, it's, oh, well, SGA was involved in it. Yeah, it wasn't the same SGA. It's not like they were trading away a guy who was a runner-up MVP. He was just a guy at that point. So, yeah, I agree with you. If you had a chance for Paul George, you make that move 10 times out of 10. So, yeah,
and I also
I'm not
think
knock them for that one.
I think also on the SGA aspect, it's like it's not like you could have guaranteed he would have been that good if he stayed with the Clippers.
True.
It's like maybe the Thunder taught him something being on that Thunder roster, like Brett mentioned earlier, having that Chris Paul veteran leadership, in that room with him could have been a factor for him, as where, he wouldn't have had that if he just stayed on the Clippers, if they didn't do that trade.
Would have gotten that Patrick Beverly leadership instead.
I don't know, he'd be fighting people.
All right. Let's keep it going. All right, so Donovan Mitchell, this is a recent development. Look, there was last year? There was talk about, Mitchell probably won't stay in Cleveland. He wants to get to New York. Well, New York does the Bridges stuff. They don't really have room for him. He decides to re-sign in Cleveland, 3 years, 150. It's like 150.3, but the 0.3, he'll be fine. So he's sticking around for 3 years. I mean, looking at this Cavs team in the 3 years of this new deal, can they make a finals appearance as currently constituted?
Oh,
that comes down to Evan Mobley.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. I don't think it's really relevant until one of these two Twin Towers there learns how to, stretch the floor a little bit. And that's going to really come down to, can Evan Mobley become a high-volume three-point shooter? And I don't think it happens. So, as currently constructed, no. I think they need to trade Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, whichever one they want to keep, and kind of split it up and just better balance out this roster.
Yeah, it's rough. I think from the Cavaliers aspect, it seems really smart to do this. I mean, from Donovan Mitchell, it does kind of look like, New York made that trade. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to make it there now. It just makes the most sense to re-sign here, especially if they're going to give me the most money that anyone else can. That's really rough. I just look at this and I look at the contracts for, the Celtics, and it's like, man, all of these Celtics dudes are on for about what? I think Porzingis is the shortest deal with 2 years. And it's like, I don't think that the Cavaliers are beating the Celtics into 2 years, given whatever happens. And then it's just like you had a third year on, and it's just like, well, Tatum, Brown, Derek White, and the rest of the roster are still there for, 3 years. You look at the 76ers, who are going to have Maxey, who just got paid, Paul George, who's on that 4-year deal, and then Embiid, who is still getting money. It's just like, I'm not too sure if, that's probable for the Cavaliers to beat them. Man, I'm going to say no. It's really rough. Maybe if they do what Brett said, kind of trade Mobley or Allen, find a way to space out the floor better, then it's a whole different story. But just right now, kind of, it seems like it just feels like they're running it back. And, saw what happened last year.
Okay, so maybe finals appearance was a bit of a reach. Can they make an Eastern Conference Finals in these 3 years?
Sure.
Yeah, we saw the Hawks do it.
It's one of those things. The playoffs are all about matchup and injury luck, right? So you get the right matchup for them and the right injury luck, and why not?
No offense to the Pacers.
We saw the Pacers just do it. That was a one-year wonder. We just saw the Hawks do it a couple years ago. That's where we got the Cam Reddish legacy game and why people think he still has potential. But we've seen it done before where a random team just kind of makes that run, and I don't see why the Cavs couldn't. but I will say there has to be a lot of luck on their side for them to do it.
Agreed.
Most said no to both finals or Eastern Conference Finals. Most not bought into it.
I'm not saying I'm bought into it, but I'm saying a conference finals can happen because injuries, man. We see, like Brett brought up a good point. We've seen it happen where those random teams would get it, and then once they got to there was always that team who was always meant to be into the finals point blank, regardless, just dominates them, and that's kind of what we saw, with the Celtics and the Pacers. Granted, the Pacers fought their butts off every single game of that series, but even still, they were definitely just outmatched and outclassed. And I feel like even if the Cavs did make it, that'd just kind of be a similar thing. They're just going to be outmatched, outclassed, and it's going to be like, well, that's nice, but for what?
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing with Cleveland's going to be, I think they have a couple of pairings that they do need to address. The Allen Mobley one, I agree. Something has to give there. I'm also not sold on the Garland Mitchell pairing. I just feel like there's something that when Mitchell's doing his thing, Garland kind of gets lost. And we saw it in the Celtics series when Mitchell missed a few games. Garland couldn't really do much on his own to create for himself. So I do think that would be something that would stop Cleveland from advancing to even an Eastern Conference Finals, is the fact that Garland is supposed to be Mitchell's running mate, but I don't think the two of them really work that well together. At least it hasn't yet. Maybe over the 3 years they find a way to make it work a little bit better. But if that doesn't really work out, then yeah, I feel like there'll probably be a first round exit or hope for a second round appearance and then exit for probably most of these 3 years. Mo asked, so who's got the Cavs going to the conference finals?
I said if there's enough injury luck that breaks their way with the perfect matchups, then it's possible.
Yeah.
But I'm not sold
and that's what
on
I
them
say.
making it. I'm
saying
you, but
if you tell me the playoffs start and all these teams will be healthy and no injuries, no shot. But that stuff does happen, and you have to play it into an account. But if you're telling me the playoff starts and we're putting a barrier and bubble wrap over all these guys, like hypothetical bubble wrap, and no one's getting hurt.
Oh yeah,
no,
they'd get run in the. I would say they probably get run in the first, second round at best.
Watch out for the Magic. That's all I'm saying.
The Magic, I like what they're doing. We'll save them for best of the rest. Last question on the Cavs for moving on. So looking at the roster once again, because I know you brought up Jared Allen, I brought up Garland. So if you can only move one of them, who should the Cavs move on from?
Allen. I think, no offense to Jared Allen, he's a great defensive piece. This has to be Mobley's team when you think about it, though. At least when it comes to playing that big, or who's going to be that one solid big. I feel like there'd be a bigger market on Allen. I feel like it'd be a lot harder to try to trade Mobley, given that he's going to get tons of money as well, too. I think Allen, you can put him into a lot of different situations and just be a good defensive centerpiece. So where Mobley, you kind of have to fit him into somewhere, and that's kind of what those Cavs are struggling with now. I think Allen, you can kind of plug him in somewhere, but I do think Mobley is a way better player. I think you could get more for Allen. You can find more pieces to fit around this Cavs team with trading Allen. I would say you move Allen.
I think the answer too is Jared Allen, but there's going to be some drawbacks to doing that. Evan Mobley's a lot smaller than Jared Allen, so he can get pushed around on the boards a lot easier. And not to mention, one thing that Jared Allen does so much better than Evan Mobley, and it sounds so basic, but it's such a great skill to have, is Jared Allen is arguably one of the best screen setters in the league, which is an easy way to create room for your guard. There are reports that Donovan Mitchell likes playing with Jared Allen, and it makes sense. If he can set a screen and easily create either a pull-up jumper for him or just force a switch every time, of course D. Mitch is going to like playing with him. So it's tough. I do think the answer is Jared Allen, but the Cavs also have to be careful because there's some really serious drawbacks to trading Jared Allen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're a Cavs fan, your best case scenario, maybe Mobley and Allen turn into I don't know, great value version of Gobert and Cat. If Mobley can develop somewhat of a perimeter game, which makes it easier to play both of them at the same time, then sure. I still don't think like that would necessarily make you a title contender, but at least it would make it work out on the court along with Mitchell. So I would agree it probably would be Allen first, but I'm still going to throw out there that I would entertain moving Garland.
See, I think the biggest reason at the end of the day is if I move Jared Allen, at least I still have some shot blocking, rebounding, rim protection. If I move Darius Garland, I have absolutely zero creation outside of Donovan Mitchell. So while I do think that you have a valid point about possibly moving Darius Garland, I think it's a slippery slope because what Darius Garland does bring to the table is really important because you can't just rely on one guy to create his own shot all the time. So I'm down for a Darius Garland trade, but you have to make sure that you're bringing in another offensive hub that can really work off of Donovan Mitchell.
That's a fair point. Very fair point. All right. So now, best of the rest. So the moves that we talked about, I mean, we touched on a lot of the big ones. What is a move that you feel like is going to fly under the radar that you think could have a big impact, or a move you just want to bring up because the fit or the dollars or something just caught your attention? So I guess we start with you, Dylan.
Just so no one steals it, KCP to the Magic. I mean, I feel like that's just a great move. I mean, this is a Magic team that was, I think I said 29th in three-point shooting last year, which obviously was a big issue for him. You get to bring in a good shooter, a veteran shooter like KCP, someone who's also been in, playoff contention. This Magic team was a really good playoff team as well, too. Man, I think it's a really good. Really good. You just bring in a good veteran leadership who's going to help them to teach them how to shoot the ball a little bit better. Someone who's also been deep into the playoffs as well as won a championship. That's just definitely one of my favorite moves there. I mean, it shocked me at first when it happened. I was like, why? Then it was just like, that actually makes sense. He'll get good playing time on there, especially being a good shooter himself. I just think that was a really great signing. It was honestly one of my favorite signings.
Yeah, Mo put that. Got the Magic on the conference finals with the addition of KCP. Then he took a step back. Second round exit at best. Look at their roster. Stay in reality playoff contender, not a title contender. And for this Orlando team, I feel like that's progress. If they can be a consistent, playoff team, especially in that division where you're looking at a Hawks team that is going to take a step back. The Wizards, good luck figuring out what their future looks like, and a Heat squad that I don't know what to expect from them. The Magic could probably dominate that. Well, not dominate, but like win that division for the next 3-4 years easily. But yeah, Brett, I guess what's your best of the rest?
I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks here because I think their most important free agent is not going to be Klay Thompson. I think they made a second signing that's going to end up being more important to them in the long run, and that's Najee Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Najee was brought in to replace Derrick Jones Jr. to fill a 3-and-D role, and I think a lot of the Mavericks' success is going to be dependent on how well can Marshall fill that role for them. Marshall is a much better shooter than Derrick Jones Jr. They got a huge upgrade in the shooting department for that. I like it. I like that a lot. And he's also been a very good defender, but now he's going to be tasked with guarding the other team's best player. How will he hold up? That's a different assignment than he had on the Pelicans. So there's no more Herb anymore. It's going to be him. He's got the primary option because I have no doubt that he's going to be inserted into the starting lineup. And I think that a lot of the Dallas Mavericks' hopes here are going to rely on him because they're going to need somebody to get stops on the perimeter. And if he's not going to do it, then the rest of it just kind of falls apart because we know Klay isn't, we know Luka isn't, we know Kyrie isn't going to do it consistently. So think a very underrated and important signing, Najee Marshall for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. I see nobody went with the James Wiseman to the Pacers. I mean, I do not love that one. I will say there is a new deal that I think happened while we were on. Kyle Anderson reportedly going to the Warriors in a sign and
yep.
trade.
I saw
mean,
that
look,
right before we went on the podcast.
Slow-mo, wherever he shows up, he finds a way to carve out a role. So I feel like for Golden State, that's a great move for them. I'm kind of interested to see how the signing trade works. You know, what else is going with him? What's going back
I think it
to
just
Minnesota.
said second. I think it just said like a second or something like that.
Hey, that's perfectly okay. Yeah, if I'm a Warriors and I get Kyle Anderson, I take that. He's gonna find a way to contribute on that team. I mean, that wasn't gonna be my pick, but I just thought of that one. I thought it was interesting. For me, the best one, we kind of touched on it a little bit over the course of the other moves. I love the Hartenstein to the Thunder. I feel like him not being in New York, I know how much they love Bridges, but they are gonna miss Hartenstein big time next year. Because I made the joke in the Discord about who's gonna, collect all those bricks when Brunson goes on his hero ball run, or Hart and DiVincenzo is just jacking up threes. Hartenstein's usually the guy crashing the boards, tipping it back out, or grabbing offensive rebounds, and they're gonna miss that. And I think for the Thunder, he's somebody who will, spell Chet. I mean, you could probably even run both of them out there at the same time in certain lineups. And I feel like for the Thunder, they're going to greatly appreciate his dirty work on the boards. Now, he got 3 years and $87 million, so he got $29 million for it. More power to him. But, I mean, everybody's getting paid crazy numbers. So the Hartenstein one was the one for me that I saw that, and I was like, yes, that's a perfect fit for him. Mo said, Dubs playing at best. I mean,
probably.
That Clippers Warriors play-in matchup is going to slap.
Yeah. Winner plays the Lakers. State of California is struggling right now.
Yeah.
And, literally, they have a potential all California play-in: Kings, Warriors, much. Clippers, Lakers.
That would be interesting, not going to lie. I mean, the Kings, if they do the Brandon Ingram thing, I mean, that would be interesting. Although I think they're talking about to get Ingram, they'd probably have to give up like Keegan Murray probably as part of the deal. I mean, I guess. So Mo does have another question. Why can't LeBron just leave? I mean, I've made this joke for Laker fans that not only is LeBron going to stay, there's a good chance 2 years down the line, we're going through the whole Bronny stuff with Bryce. And Rich Paul and LeBron are going to make that happen if they can.
You see what Bryce said about that? He's like, you think my dad's going to be playing when he's 42? He said he doesn't think he's going to be playing with him. He said, you think my dad's going to want to be playing when he's 42?
Bronny doesn't want that. Bronny probably wants, like, they play like a game or two together, and LeBron goes, all right, I played with him, I'm going to retire. And Bronny could be like, nice, I get to have my own career. It's not going to happen that way, but.
You see how the introduction things, he was like, I never thought about playing with my dad. I bet you didn't, because you probably didn't really want to. It creates more pressure on you.
Yeah. Look, I know people say, like, Bronny is a great kid and everything. He has handled it pretty well, because the biggest issues with the whole Bronny saga have been Rich Paul. Him during the draft day or afternoon, the messages from him about playing in Australia if he can't get to LA, like, Bronny doesn't need that. I get you're his age and you're supposed to do his best for him, but I mean, you could have phrased it somewhere differently. I feel like most teams probably would have been like, yeah, we're not going to take him anyway because we understand you want him to go to the Lakers and we're not going to deal with the headache. And for a lot of teams, if LeBron was going to come with them, they probably were out on Bronny anyway. But it was just a bad look from Rich Paul constantly, like, talking. Then after the fact, he's on TMZ talking about well, if Bronny's name was John Smith, he would have gotten drafted too. And it's like, one, that's not true. Two, it's like, why are you still talking about it? You did your job and got into LA. Just leave it alone. Simple as that. Yeah. So Mo,
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Another 3 for you. Yeah, I hated
that. I didn't like it either, and it was just like I don't want to speak for Bronny because if at the end of the day, if that's how he felt, that's how he felt. But that's not how he felt. That's not at all. I imagine he was like, man, if I can make it onto a team, I'd just be happy, Give me an opportunity and I want to play. And it's like now that he's on LA and he is playing with his dad, I imagine like it is like I don't want to say bittersweet, but it probably feels a little bittersweet. It's like, yeah, we're the first combo to ever do this. Like that's actually big news. That's actually a big thing. It's groundbreaking. But then it's also like, man, all eyes are going to be on me.
So Mo said John Smith would have been playing with D12. That's another thing. Like Dwight Howard just loves inserting himself into NBA talk as well. I saw he had the post when Paul George got to Philly. He puts on like the like PG and the eyeball emojis or whatever. I don't know what Dwight's really doing anymore. So
I'm trying to get back into the NBA because he probably doesn't like playing over there.
I know. I mean, if you look at it, there are teams that could use a big man, but yeah, I don't think Dwight Howard's who they're looking to call right now.
No.
The issue is he's still reliving those glory days. Like, I remember what I did in the bubble 4 years ago. Like, dude, 4 years is a long time in NBA years, man.
Yeah, COVID's over.
Yeah.
That's not even a thing anymore, Dwight.
Yeah. Dwight and Boogie Cousins. Oh, I feel like Boogie Cousins is. Yeah, I'm fine with Boogie Cousins. Like, he does podcasts and stuff. He seems to make sense on there. But Dwight, yeah, just have fun in Taiwan or wherever you're playing. Shoot your threes, enter your 3-point contest, and just ride it out as long as you
I won't lie, though. During the playoffs, after every team was eliminated, him just, like, posting himself photoshopped in their jersey was, like, the funniest thing in the world, though. I was like, fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah. Dwight Howard. All right, I mean, I know I said that you could have like one best of the rest. If there's another move you want to bring up, you can go ahead and highlight.
I know we were just joking about it. The Tobias Harris move. There's a couple moves that were kind of question marks. The Tobias Harris move and then the Jonas Valanciunas move. I thought both of those were a little question mark. From the Wizards' end, the Jonas Valanciunas move was smart, but I mean, from his end, it seemed a little bit weird. I mean, I don't know why the Wizards were the place you wanted to go. Maybe it was just because that was the team that was probably going to offer him more money, and that's maybe what he necessarily cared about. But I don't see the Wizards making any sort of moves. They kind of like hunkered down into like their rebuild mode this year is what it seemed like. I'm not sure Kyle Kuzma and Valanciunas is really kind of the way to go there for you, but that's whatever. And then Tobias Harris move's kind of interesting, especially given the money that we had. I know we said they just did it to burn it, and I mentioned if he's good, you could trade him for something, but that's if he's good. He brings in some sort of veteran leadership, but it was just like, man, at that point, I'd rather have just held on to the money and just waited or tried to see if like there's a star who I could try to get or something else like that. I don't know. That also seemed interesting, but I guess with him being drafted by the Pistons, homecoming's always nice. It was just interesting given the amount they gave him.
Say Jonas on the Wizards, it's going to be hilarious to watch. That is going to be the worst defense in the NBA.
Yeah.
With between Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and Jonas Valanciunas, that is the worst big three defensively I think I may have ever heard.
They're trying to break the record for the most points scored by an opponent.
Ironically, I think the worst defense in NBA history was almost set by them last year, so I guess they're just trying to one-up themselves.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris to the Pistons, I actually didn't mind it, right? And the only reason I say that is because when it comes to the NBA, there's a minimum salary floor you have to hit when it comes to spending money. Tobias Harris, he has a history there. He did really well in Detroit. He got drafted there, then he came back there and averaged like 18 a game. He was a good player for Detroit, so he has history. And like I said, veteran leadership, and nobody's coming to Detroit. Nobody else is really coming, so you might as well overpay Tobias a little, get that veteran leadership, and if he provides something on the court, it's just a bonus. But keep developing those young guys and give
I just hope he doesn't take minutes away from those young guys because they have a pretty young stacked roster. It's just, but I guess when you think about it, they don't really have a great young wing. They got Cade, they got Duran, they got Jaden Ivey. So it's just like they don't really have any great young wings.
I was gonna say when it comes to forwards, I wouldn't worry about that too much because it's who's he really stealing minutes from when it comes to young forwards on the Pistons, like Isaiah Stewart. But at the same time, I don't think Isaiah Stewart's really going to develop much more than what he is right now. They're not playing him at center, so Jalen Duren's, he's not touching his minutes. Then your other best players are guards. So I think getting a vet like Tobias is perfectly fine because you can play him 48 minutes a night, and it's not like it would really matter because unless I'm forgetting somebody, I don't think there's really any young forwards in Detroit that they're really trying hard to develop.
Yes, that's a good point.
Trying to see if there's any other moves.
I mean, Derek Jones going to the Clippers. That was kind of. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Chris Dunn's going there. Like, yeah. A few guys.
Nicholas Batum. That's like, oh man, your guys are. What are you trying to load up with? Especially giving Derek Jones $10 million a year. Ooh.
Well, they had to spend some money. I guess so. They pulled names out of a hat, went and got them.
The only forward they're developing, let me correct myself, is Ron Holland. I forgot they drafted him.
Oh, okay. So,
but outside of him, like they can split minutes. It doesn't really matter. I don't think. You don't want Ron Holland playing with a bunch of these like starters anyway, because running a lineup with Cade, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Ron Holland,
Stewart.
Yeah, right. Like it's going to be a 1 out, 4 in with just Isaiah Stewart being the only consistent 3-point shot. So,
which is crazy to think about.
Right. Seeing where he started and now he's turning to pretty good, especially on corners.
I guess since we're on the Pistons, Cade got his extension, which is really good to see. I mean, he's been playing really great basketball there for the Pistons. Him and Ivy don't seem like it's been a bad combo, and also Jalen Duran's been he picked up last year as well too. So it's all positive signs. Signed a new coach as well too. So.
And speaking of the Magic, if he can stay healthy, that Jonathan Isaac contract will be a steal. That's the issue. Is he hasn't been able to stay healthy, but if Jonathan Isaac can stay healthy, lock him in for at least 1, maybe 2 DPOIs in the span of that contract.
I agree. I hope a lot of me thinks DeMar's going to go to either the Clippers or the Lakers. He's from California, which I'm not sure if him going on there makes them like a contender or given, the Lakers, I feel a little indifferent about. You still have LeBron, and then you just had Anthony Davis, who just played the most games of his career in a minute, or I don't know. It seems like his career, period. He's the healthiest he's been. So adding DeMar on something like that could be game changing. You still have Austin Reeves. Haven't done anything with D'Angelo Russell yet. That's a team that could definitely take some strides. I mean, if you were to make a move like that.
Him on the Lakers is interesting because we just had JJ Redick saying they want to really pass the ball around and shoot a lot of threes. And that is like literally the exact opposite of who DeMar DeRozan has been his entire career.
True.
Who relies on isolation and takes a lot of mid-range shots. So
I guess when JJ Redick's your coach, DeMar DeRozan probably isn't, the best player to throw in there because when, he's just bricking all of his threes, JJ Redick's going to get mad at him.
Yeah. I mean,
I do like the Clippers move though. He is a California kid.
And for the Bulls, it'd be a much needed move. Like they have to do the DeMar Zach LaVine thing. They have to move those guys. I mean, LaVine's gonna be tough, I guess, coming off the injury. But what are you keeping DeMar around for?
I mean, I don't. There you go, LA. There's another dude. Get LaVine. Someone.
Nobody wants LaVine.
Nobody wants. I heard the Bulls were trying to package 1st-round picks to try to move him as well too, and that's the crazy thing.
That means you can't get anybody to take him. So you have to.
Man, I'm a Hawks fan, but I'm a Hawks fan, but at this point, I'd take Levine just so we could sell maybe a little bit more jerseys. I would like a Levine Young lineup better than what we're trying to do with them right now. If we're just selling jerseys at the moment,
Levine Young combo on defense sounds like an absolute train wreck waiting to happen. But honestly,
hey, man,
I'm
the
here
Hawks
for
are a train wreck right now. So
Right.
we still got Capella there for the defense. That's all that matters.
Clint Capella about to carry the Hawks again.
Man, my whole thing about it is just like we have Onyeka and Kungwu, and it's like, why are we still like pushing Clint Capella when we should be pushing a Kungwu, or at least pushing him at the 4 if possible? But that's Jalen Johnson's spot. So
No, I agree with that. I think Clint has to go. I think
LA's perfect.
But you can't play. You can't play Clint and a Conwu together because then your floor spacing is just tanked at that point.
Yep.
You're not coming back from that. I do think it's time to move on from Clint.
Because your lineup this year would be Young, Bogdanovich, Zachary, however you say his last name. I've heard so many different things. Then you'd have Johnson, Okongwu. And it's like, yeah, that lineup is not going to be winning a lot regardless, but it's still a young lineup that seems developable. And under Quinn Snyder, it's pretty decent defensively, but I don't know. It just seems like you think you can win, but everybody else knows it's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that lineup would score points in a hurry.
It'd be good, but I don't know. Move Clint to the Lakers, move him somewhere. Get him out of here. I'll take anything for him. A second at this point. Can we package a first move Clint Capella? It's like John Collins all over again for me.
Oh, John Collins. The yearly trade sweepstakes that never happened until finally. Yeah. Last thing you need is Clint Capella to turn into the new John Collins. I felt so bad for him after a while. But it is what it is. So I'm going to pull up our fun trivia while I do that. Because I don't think we actually did talk about the Bickerstaff getting the Pistons job. Because that was a job that looked like nobody wanted it for a while. I mean, they went to the draft without one. And there was like worry that they might get to the summer league before they got somebody. So they got Bickerstaff, who was fired by Cleveland, which I think a lot of people were surprised by that because he had a winning record there. He got into the second round, but they moved on from him. So what do you think about Bickerstaff as the Pistons head coach?
I mean, I like it. I mean, it kind of gives me shades of the Monty Williams signing, because signed a dude after he just got fired after a winning season. Overall, I mean, I like it. It's just another voice in there, someone who's coached different types of players, different types of all-stars. Definitely can bring a different game to them. If they're struggling finding coaches, he was probably one of the best available options that they could get as well, too. So I like it.
I think the first question I'd have, does JB Bickerstaff want to be there? If so, he's already a much better coach than Monty Williams for the Pistons. You can tell Monty was just there because they kind of forced him by giving him $90 million. Overall, I like it. I think JB Bickerstaff's a great coach. I think he's going to develop these young guys well. It's going to come down to Detroit, and they got to understand that this is a process. He's not going to come in, and they're not going to randomly turn into play-in contenders. Like, this is going to take time, so ownership's just got to give him time, give him space. And I think this ends up working out in the long run, but they just got sorry, 76er fans for stealing your line, but they just got to trust the process.
Agreed. I thinking about it, like just thinking of those teams of like who could make, like a Magic jump like last year, or even like a team that can make like a Thunder of like, a couple years ago type move where they made the play in and people were like, yeah, this team, is going to be really good. And then they were first overall seed. Pistons are one of those teams, with the proper coach, they obviously have great players who are developing well. Just need to have that coach who can kind of set them over that hump and, they could make some noise.
I can't remember his name, but I think their best coaching hire, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they hired the shooting coach from the Pelicans, one of the best shooting coaches in the league, and I think that could be their best coaching hire of the year. I'm so mad that I can't remember his name off the top of the dome, but like he helped, Herb Jones and all those guys develop jumpers. He's well respected around the league. So I think he's going to be the real MVP because that's the Pistons issue right now is
Mhm.
They have some good-looking prospects, but half of them can't shoot. So if they can even get like half those guys, like get
35.
some of those guys at 35, 36, just be respectable shooters, that would do wonders for guys like Cade who want to attack the rim but can't because everybody just wants to pack the paint against them.
They know his game plan. They know he can't shoot,
Yep.
or at least at an elite
Sure.
clip.
Absolutely. So I do have it pulled up here. We're going to go ahead and do hoop grids once again because there's a theme for the hoop grid today that I feel like would be very fitting. And once you see it, you'll understand why. Wait for it to pop up here. It's a Kemba Walker one because Kemba Walker retired today. So the UConn legend, look, I remember that game against Syracuse, like the 6 overtime game in the Big East tournament. That made me an instant Kemba Walker fan. I kind of wish his time with the Celtics was a little bit better, but he's calling it a career after I think 12 seasons. So we have going the left side, Kemba Walker, NBA All-Star, Boston Celtics. Along the top, we have the Hornets, a 25-plus point game in the regular season, and a 250-plus assist season. So where do you guys want to get started?
Well, I think, we could do for Hornets Celtics if we wanted to. Grant Williams, The poor Grant.
Good old Grant. Yeah, they got him smiling in the
Look how
picture.
happy he looks.
That's a all right.
I can't remember which Zeller it was, but you could do for Hornets, Kemba, whatever Zeller brother it was.
Cody.
I imagine.
It's Cody Zeller.
I thought it was Cody.
That was Cody. Yeah, the Zeller brothers. Not quite the Plumleys, but they're not too far off.
Hornets All-Stars, I think, starting with the obvious, I think Al Jefferson was an All-Star at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, Al Jefferson in Charlotte, he was kind of good.
Oh,
no.
Apparently he was not an All-Star. Interesting.
Nobody else during that Kemba time was either. There couldn't have been. They weren't good enough to have 2 All-Stars.
No, you have to go pre Kemba. Unless I don't think LaMelo Ball was an All-Star. Dwight Howard.
Oh.
I don't think Del Curry was an All-Star. Probably the most popular one, I'd imagine. No.
4%. Probably because not a lot of people remember he played for the Hornets.
Yes.
They probably went just old Hornets people.
Mo with the name drop in the comments. That's
Mo,
a good one.
Mo, that was the name that I had. Gerald Wallace. Yes. Had an interesting career.
Scores that Kemba played with, 25 a game.
I mean, he played that run on the Celtics you can think about. So, I imagine you put Tatum there. Put Brown there, probably. Trying to think of who else he might have played with at that time. I can't think of many veterans or just even guys.
Did he play with Julius Randle? I don't know if because he played on the Knicks.
Oh, yeah.
I think he had a brief stop
on
the Hornets, and then obviously he had a brief stop, I think, in OKC too.
Yeah. I think Randall's good.
All right, so go on Randall. There you go.
An All-Star that averaged 25.
Should have been able to put French team Fournier. Yeah, NBA All-Star. There's so many to choose from.
I know, and trying to think of the most bizarre All-Star that might have averaged 25 a game. Like, let's see, bizarre All-Stars. I don't think Yao ever did it. Horford, Millsap, Korver, Teague never did it. I know Adrian Dantley did. Depends how many people are thinking back to the 80s. I know too bad Andre Miller was never an All-Star. No, okay, he just had that 150-point game, but I'm just trying to think of random All-Stars. Like, obviously, I can think of some 80s guys. Like, the first name that popped into my head was, like, Adrian Dantley did it.
I mean, that'd probably get a decent score still.
Let's see. Dave Cowens was an MVP, but I don't know if he ever did 25 a game.
I'd be confident with Danley. I think that'd get us a good score.
Yeah, we can put in Adrian and see.
All right. .39%.
Oh yeah, see.
Look at it. 25 a game on the Celtics. Kemba Walker. I think that would be a pretty obvious one. Dominique Wilkins.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, the Dominique years. He never looked right in that Celtics uniform. There you go. 0.55.
And now we got 250 assists.
All right, so now you're down to assists.
Okay, who did he play with? Gordon Hayward would probably qualify, maybe. Nick Batum might be pushing it. Did he play with Tony Parker on the Hornets?
I think.
Hornets legend Tony Parker might be the answer.
If that does work, that's probably that would be probably like unicorn level there. Oh, 4 point. Okay, that's right. Actually, a little higher than I thought. 4.12. Good answer.
All-Star, 250 assists in a season. Jeff Teague.
Hardcore.
Oh yeah.
Come on, give me. I know there'll be a unicorn, but I don't think many people remember Jeff Teague was a one-time All-Star.
No.
0.93.
250 assists.
All right, so now you're left with Celtics 250 assists.
Trying to think of somewhere like bizarre Celtics point guards.
There's a few.
Did downtown D Brown ever play for the Celtics, or was it Freddie Brown? Obviously there's Dennis Johnson.
Oh, D Brown did.
Say D Brown is one.
That would probably be a rare percentage though, too.
Because off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody else right now.
That's right.
All right, let's try. I forgot there was that second D Brown, the Illinois great.
Yeah.
Yep, that worked. Oh, they couldn't even get him a picture. Disrespectful.
Whew. Nah, we cooked on that. Like
Man won a dunk contest. You can't get him an image.
I'm just saying that corner, that lower right corner there, we cooked.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. 0.85. Yes. It's kind of lower than I thought. 52.8%. Okay. I feel like that hoop grid's like slowing down my computer now. But
Hoop grid breaking.
yeah,
Too many
we
ads.
got like 5 minutes to go. Yeah, I hate that about it. So let me pull us up here, take that off. All right. So yes, you guys nailed the hoop grid once again. I mean, a point guard I was thinking about was Kenny Anderson. He had his moment with the Celtics. I'm sure that probably would have worked. But D Brown, that's a good pull. I mean, look, with 4 minutes to go, if there's anything you want to bring up before we get out of here.
I mean, I'm a big UFC fan, so it was a pretty good event this weekend. It was the 4th highest gate in UFC history. Alex Pereira beat Yuri Prohaska in a second round knockout, which was pretty good. Regardless of what people think of it not being stopped after the first round. It's a great event. It's always good when you see like records be broken, and now Alex Pereira is, he has 2 of the top 5 highest gates, and the only other fighter to have that is Conor McGregor. So, that's some good names to be up there, especially when it comes to, making money for the company. So that's pretty big. Technically, he owns 3 and 4 now, though. McGregor still owns 1 and 2 respectively, but still having 2 events in the top 5 is still pretty big.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I spent half my weekend debating people on how good was DeMarcus Cousins. So because he's somebody I feel like always gets insanely overrated once the offseason hits. Because somebody posts a highlight montage and be like, "Oh, he'd be better than Embiid and Jokic." I was like, you got to watch more than the highlights to get the full DeMarcus Cousins experience, man.
Yep. I agree. Look, DeMarcus Cousins and Dwight Howard have kind of been linked as big men who aren't playing right now. That a lot of people, Dwight Howard kind of inserts himself into other people's teams, but a lot of people look at DeMarcus Cousins and wonder, how come he's not playing still or whatever. I mean, the leg injuries definitely got to him, but I mean, he was good for his time, and he was serviceable. He developed kind of an outside game as he went on in his career. But yeah, to say he's better than Embiid or somebody like that, that's definitely pushing it.
So yeah, half the time it was just like his attitude that killed him. Like he had his flaws as a player. His defense was abysmal. He had low efficiency, but overall too, like watching him just. My one buddy Aaron from Hoops Temple put it the best. He's like, if there was a stat to track who the last guy to cross half court was, DeMarcus Cousins would have led that stat every year because he's always falling to the ground, looking to the refs, and by the time he gets past half court, the play's over already.
Yeah.
So it's those little intangibles with him that you can't track, which really hold him back from being like remembered as a better center.
That's definitely a fair point. Yeah, so
coaches love hustle.
Last minute, I'll just say I feel like this is something we might talk about next week, but College Football 25, I'm so hyped for. Since it's a sports video game, I mean, it definitely fits with what we do.
I'm only taking a break to be on the podcast. That's the only break I'm taking.
You guys gonna get 25, or you gonna get the deluxe bundle with Madden?
I got it. I got that one.
I'll probably just get 25.
I mean, my only thing on 25 is the dynasties aren't crossplay yet, so gotta have a little fun elsewhere.
Yeah, that's true. But I do feel like it's something that kind of like what they did with Madden. They talked about it coming, and then came like a little bit later after release. I'm assuming.
Yeah, they did it in an update, right?
Yeah,
basically. Okay, so then that's probably what it is. They're probably going to test out the servers.
Exactly. That's why I think that is happening, because college football is definitely a lot different, where you're dealing with recruiting and all this kind of stuff. Because I did the deep dive today, and I was like, I'm completely sold. I loved everything I saw in there. So yeah, like I said, something that we'll probably talk about next week, as we would be, I guess, a week out from release, which after waiting 10 years, it's crazy to think that it's actually here. So that's kind of a tease for next week. We'll definitely talk some college football 25. But yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark. So appreciate all of you that were in the chat. Had a lot of fun. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. Also follow or subscribe, depending on where you're watching, to Integrity Sports Network. That way, when we do go live, you'll get a notification. It'll be much easier for you to find us. And yeah, I think that's all I got. So enjoy the rest of your night. We are here every Tuesday, so we'll see you next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, for another edition of the On the Ball podcast. So for myself, Brett Carter 3, and Dylan, we are out here. We'll see you next week. Good night.